Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Yes, it's the Skeptic Zone podcast, episode number 837 for the 20th of October 2024. Richard Saunders coming to you this week from Berkeley, California. Now I'm cooling my heels for a few days in order to shake out the jet lag before I end up in Las Vegas at CSICon, where I'll be giving two talks. Well, a workshop on doing paranormal bits and pieces with Kenny Biddle, and then I'll be giving a talk about psychic detectives from the main stage. And I hope to bring you many, many interviews. I'm delighted that I will be at CSICon with Skeptic Zone reporters Kat McLeod, Adrienne Hill, and Susan Gerbeck. I'm sure between the three of us, and with the help of Rob Palmer, we should be able to score some great interviews for the Skeptic Zone episodes coming up. Now, coming up on this week's episode, you can count on Adrienne. We can always count on Adrienne. An interview with Dr. Rodney Schmaltz. He's a psychologist working at Grant MacEwan University in Edmonton, Canada. And we're going to find out about the exciting activities in his critical thinking course. What a good idea. And his involvement in the upcoming LiliCon 2024 on Thursday, October 24th from 12 to 4 p.m. at CSICon. Following that, it's a new announcement about the Bent Spoon Award coming up at SkeptiCon. Lots of cons going on. And we're going to tell you about why the Cancer Council of Western Australia has been nominated for a Bent Spoon. It's the prize nobody wants to win. Following that, it's the Loons from Canada, Kate and Allie, with their look into numerology, a topic we've investigated before. Numerology, well, the numbers simply don't add up. Why they don't add up, let's find out with Kate and Allie. Then to round off the show in the TROVE Archives, we look at references in Australian printed history to crime and the supernatural. A big shout out to my dear friends Ross and Carrie at the Oh No, Ross and Carrie podcast that sadly wrapped up. It's come to an end. It's been going strong since 2011. It's a tribute to both of them that the show maintained its quality and interest through all those years. And in this week's show notes, I will link to an interview I conducted with Ross and Carrie not long after they started their podcast. We wish them all the best. Oh No, Ross and Carrie, simply one of the best skeptical podcasts of the era. Well, that's enough for me at the moment. It's time for me to run around the corner, open the fridge, have some nice cold root beer. And while I do that, I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. You can count on Adrienne with Adrienne Hill.
Hello, everyone. This is Adrienne Hill, and I'm not in Skookum Studios right now. I'm actually in Edmonton at Grant MacEwan University, and I'm sitting here with a very special person. And can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am Rodney Schmaltz. I'm a professor here at MacEwan University, and I teach a course on pseudoscience, and I also do some research in the area.
Yeah, and Rodney, he invited me to talk about the Winchester Mystery House to his students, and we had a blast. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for coming.
So tell me a little bit about your course that you teach and some of the fun things that you do. You were telling me some really interesting things.
Sure. So this course has been taught for about 10 years now, and this year we paired with the Center for Inquiry Investigations group, and they host the Paranormal Challenge. So the Paranormal Challenge is for anyone who claims they have any kind of paranormal ability, they could potentially win $500,000 if they can show it under scientifically controlled conditions. So this year, my students are actually working on the protocols. So they're getting the actual protocols, they're designing how they'll be tested, and at the end of the term, we will get to view the tests over Zoom.
What a great thing to do with students. I think if I was in your class, I would be so excited.
The students are having a lot of fun with that. And it's really interesting because you learn about things like research methods, but often you don't see that real world application. This is a direct real world application. And there really is $500,000 at stake here. So it needs to be done right. So it's really a way to think about research methodology in a different way and really to start to think critically about some of these claims and do so in an open mind too. So we work with the applicants to try to find ways to test it in a way that would be fair, to really test what they claim that they say they can do, but to test it in a way that will really validate if they have these powers or not.
Halloween is coming up, and you're going to be doing something pretty fun with your students. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, every year we go on a ghost hunt, and we do this throughout Edmonton at different supposedly haunted locations. The reason we do it is to basically debunk the ghost hunters on TV. So we can't prove or disprove the existence of ghosts. That's not what we're doing. But what we can do is show that there's some very earthly explanations for a lot of these supposedly paranormal experiences that people have. So we pick different places in the city to go. We use the same techniques as the ghost hunters on TV, but then we break it down from a more skeptical perspective and say, okay, what's really going on here? So I get the students to take lots of photos of orbs, which is very easy to do. We do it in late October, so often it's snowing. If it's snowing at all and you have your flash on, you get a lot of orbs. We often go to old buildings, so you can just raise a little dust, pat on some chairs or something and take some photos. And again, if your flash is on, you'll get the reflection off the dust. So we get lots of orbs. We look for unusual odors. We look for unusual sights and sounds, so we can talk about things like pareidolia, so we can, see shadows and see if people might misattribute that to looking like a person or a face. And we also do a really simple test for infrasound. So infrasound is a low frequency sound under 20 hertz that you can't hear, but you can feel it. So as an example, it'd be like if you went to a concert and you can feel that your chest is you can feel something in your chest and the hair on the back of your neck goes up from the bass, you know what it is. It's the bass of the concert, from the concert. But imagine that you couldn't hear anything but felt those things. And that's caused by things like low rumbling pipes, which you find in old buildings, and old buildings are often associated with hauntings. So to test for infrasound, the microphones are very, very expensive, but a cheap test is just holding up a candle or a lighter. And if the flame starts to turn a little bit or bend right in the middle, there's a good chance that there's infrasound there. And when there's a lot of infrasound, the flame will almost spin a little bit. So that's the way we test it. So we'll look in these buildings, just basically light a match or take a lighter. And if the flame starts to spin a bit, there's a pretty good chance there's infrasound, which could be an explanation for why people feel like they're having a haunting experience.
A spinning candle or flame sounds spooky to me. Do the kids find it spooky?
It's not. It's more of a flickering spinning, so it's not that spooky. It's more like if you hold a candle up to a speaker and it'll start to kind of flicker. It's like that. Okay. That's basically what it looks like. So it's not like it's overly spooky. It's more interesting for the students than spooky, I think.
Oh, that's fascinating. I had never heard of that before. I think that's wonderful. Now, you are going to be at CSICon, as I am, and I know Richard Saunders is going to be there as well. But you have something very special you're part of. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I'm part of the Lilienfeld Alliance. This year is the inaugural LiliCon, and that's about teaching rational skepticism in higher education. So it's a half-day conference for educators who want to get more resources to help promote critical thinking, scientific thinking, and so on. And we've got a great lineup. We've got a lot of speakers. Just to name a few, we have Chris French, Stuart Firestein, Tanner Edis, Kevin Folta, among others. It's a great, great lineup. So if you have any interest at all in teaching skepticism in higher education, you should definitely check it out.
Thank you so much. And I hope it's a success, and I hope we see it more in future years, and hope it's not on the day of the workshops.
Agreed.
Well, thank you so much, Rodney, for inviting me here and for taking the time for this interview. Is there anything else you'd like to say beforehand? And if not, can you just tell the listeners where they can find you if they want to contact you for anything.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, all social media. I've got a webpage, so check that out. And I just want to thank you again for the talk today. It was absolutely fantastic, and it was a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you so much. I had a blast. It was so fun to stand in front of a classroom again. That's the first time I have stood in front of students since 2018 when I retired.
Wow. Yeah. It was great. It was great.
Thanks. So I'm not out of practice. Great.
Right.
It was great. I was there. That's the other loon from Canada who's in the room with us. Hi, Kat.
Hi, Adrienne. How you doing?
Until next time, this is Adrienne Hill from Rodney Studios.
Monsters from the Shadowlands real? Do strange and mysterious creatures walk amongst us in the dead of night? Should you be afraid? Many people fear what we call cryptids, those animals or entities lost somewhere between myth and magic in the world. My name is Ben Radford, Deputy Editor of Skeptical Inquirer Science Magazine, and I'm here to set the record straight. For over a quarter of a century now, I've investigated mysterious creatures around the world. The Chupacabra, Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, Mothman, Lizard Man, you name it. All sorts of weird things. But until now, there's one land that has eluded me. Australia. Yes, the land of the Yowie and the Bunyip, all sorts of weird, strange, mysterious creatures. Some have 2 legs, some have 4. Who knows what you have out there? I don't know. But I can't wait to meet you all in November at SkeptiCon, the Australian Skeptics National Convention, from the 23rd to the 24th in Sydney in November. You can check out all the other amazing speakers and book your tickets at skepticon.org.au. Come and meet me in Sydney, and we'll see how many dragons and monsters we can slay together.
Now, here's an announcement from the Australian Skeptics, and this appears on the Australian Skeptics website at www.skeptics.com.au. Cancer Council, Western Australia, nominated for Bent Spoon. And this is by Tim Mendham. The Western Australia branch of the Cancer Council has been nominated for the 2024 Bent Spoon Award for the promotion of pseudoscience, in this case offering therapies based on the pseudoscience of reiki and reflexology. The Cancer Council, WA, is a registered charity with the stated purpose of working, quote, with our community to reduce the incidence and impact of cancer, end quote, based on, quote, the most solid foundation of evidence available in every practice we embrace. While the Cancer Council nationally reviews complementary therapies in its publications, in some cases highlighting doubts about their efficacy, the WA branch offers free complementary therapies to cancer patients and their families, the choice, quote, guided by evidence-based best practice and research, end quote. None of the other state-based councils seem to offer these therapies. The WA Council says that, quote, complementary therapies such as massage, beauty therapies, and reiki are used in conjunction with conventional medical treatments and are increasingly considered an important part of supportive care that helps people address a wide range of challenges beyond medical treatment or cancer. They aim to improve general well-being, quality of life, and can help people cope with the side effects of cancer, end quote. It adds that the therapies it offers have, quote, demonstrated safety for use with people affected by cancer, end quote, which is not surprising if they do nothing that might be considered invasive, let alone therapy. The inclusion of Reiki, which is a system in which the practitioner passes their hands through the air over the patient, often without touching them, supposedly to help balance their energy flows is particularly concerning for an organization designed to help people during and after their diagnosis for cancer and subsequent evidence-based treatment. The WA Council describes Reiki as, quote, a system involving the laying on of hands developed in Japan in the early 20th century and is believed to have the capacity to bring balance to the physical, mind, body, emotional, and spiritual aspects of an individual. Researchers found that the effect of Reiki can be demonstrated through the changes to a recipient's biology after they have received Reiki for 30 minutes. Changes to biological markers suggest that Reiki can contribute to a decrease in anxiety and an increase in relaxation, end quote. It says of reflexology, a system of massaging the soles of the feet for supposed nerve-based links to other part of the body, that, quote, clinical trials have shown that reflexology reduces pain and anxiety and helps improve quality of life, particularly for those receiving palliative care, end quote. In contrast to the WA branch, the New South Wales Cancer Council says about Reiki that, quote, there is no reliable evidence that Reiki has any benefits. Anecdotal reports suggest that Reiki is calming and relaxing, often helping to relieve pain and anxiety, reduce stiffness, and improve posture, end quote. It adds of healing touch, a general description of non-contact, energy-based treatments, which include Reiki, that, quote, there is no scientific evidence of an energy field or that energy therapies have any benefits, end quote. Reiki and reflexology are also recently included in the list of therapies no longer covered by the NDIS. And NDIS stands for the National Disability Insurance Agency. Quote, quality of life, end quote, is one aspect of the WA Council's offering, though intrinsic to that must be the hope of patients that these therapies will help them in the treatment process. Tim Mendham, Executive Officer of Australian Skeptics, said, there are many treatments which could offer an improvement to quality of life, but not all of them claim to be medically valid or based on a solid foundation of evidence. The Council also offers massage and beauty therapy services, and while these could be seen to offer a calming benefit, they do not claim to be efficacious in actually treating cancer. The Skeptic's Bent Spoon is awarded to the perpetrator of the most preposterous piece of paranormal or pseudoscientific piffle of the year and has been awarded since 1982. Past winners include ABC, that's the broadcaster, SBS, another broadcaster, Paleo Pete Evans, Walkley Award-winning journalist Ross Coulthart, who is nominated again this year, the Australian Vaccination Network, RMIT, and Wollongong Universities, and a psychic dentist. The winner this year will be announced during SkeptiCon, the Skeptics' annual convention to be held at the University of Technology, Sydney, from November 23rd to 24th. This will be the 40th consecutive convention for the Skeptics, thus earning itself the nickname of SkeptiCon XL. The Cancer Council WA's description of its free therapies can be found at tinyurl.com/CancerWA complimentary. And if you go to that link, it says many of the quotes from the press release I just read. And just speaking of Reiki, it says here, according to the WA Cancer Council, it says a system involving laying on of hands. Well, no, that's not quite correct. The hands wave above the patient. Researchers found that the effects of Reiki can be demonstrated through changes to a recipient's biology after they have received Reiki for 30 minutes. Changes to biological markers suggest that Reiki can contribute to a decrease in anxiety and an increase in relaxation. You can imagine why if somebody is under the impression they're getting treatment, and the treatment consists of them lying down with somebody nice paying attention to them while they relax. It's hardly a surprise. Well, there we are. Cancer Council WA nominated for Bent Spoon. That press release written by Tim Mendham was published on the 7th of October. And you can read that for yourself at skeptics.com.au, and while you are there, you can sign up for the newsletter, which comes out every other week. Of course, sign up for the magazine, which comes out 4 times a year. No matter where you are around the world, you can get that. And of course, you can nominate someone for the Bent Spoon Award. I think it's probably a little late this year. You can see by the time you hear this whether that's still open for nominations, but certainly you can have somebody in mind to nominate them for 2025.
Hola, les habla Paula desde la hermosa ciudad de Buenos Aires, en Argentina. Cuando escuchamos podcasts, escuchamos los mismos que escucha todo el mundo, como The Skeptic Zone. Ojalá puedan venir a visitarnos algún día. Los esperamos con nuestras riquísimas comidas locales y hasta podemos ir a bailar un tango. Mientras tanto, sigan disfrutando de su dosis semanal de ciencia y pensamiento racional. ¡Chao!
It's the Loons from Canada. Here's Kate and Allie.
Anyway. So we're not recording yet, but we are recording.
We are recording, but we're not recording.
We are the Loons.
From Canada.
Yes, apparently.
All right.
There's your outtake.
Yeah, that's right. He still likes 10 seconds of silence from me.
Yes. Okay. Hi, Kate.
Hi, Allie. Welcome to Kitty Corner Studios.
It's so great. I'm having a blast. We are together recording for the first time.
Yes, in the same room recording.
Yes, doing a Kate and Allie episode together in the same room.
The only other time we did that was the really embarrassing time at We Can Reason in your hotel room.
Yes, that's correct. But that wasn't a Kate and Allie episode.
That's true.
Yes.
That was a faux Kate and Allie episode.
There's the giggle. All right. You know, Kat, our brains are attracted to patterns. So people give meaning to when they happen to look at a clock at 11:11. I like 7:47 myself. Or repeating numbers in dates. Remember all the people getting married on 7707 and 8808? Mm-hmm. I've heard numerology mentioned on the Skeptic Zone several times, and I think it was by me.
It was by you.
But what is it really? Does it have to do with patterns and dates?
Well, funny you should ask, because I was actually introduced to numerology when I was a teenager. It's a divination technique that attempts to explain how everything is connected, and it suggests that numbers can define our strengths, weaknesses, and even dictate our destiny. Ooh. There are 3 main types of numerology: Chaldean, Pythagorean,
my favorite, sorry,
I knew it, and Kabbalah. Chaldean is the oldest form, and some believe that it's the most accurate, but it's much harder to master since less information is available about it. And you may have guessed, being the math whiz that you are, that the Pythagorean system derives from the Greek mathematician and philosopher Pythagoras, who learned the Chaldean numerology in Egypt and then chose to create his own version, which is used more commonly worldwide. The Kabbalah method is based in Hebrew culture and only analyzes the vibrations of an individual's name, not the birth date.
The vibrations of a name?
You heard correctly. All forms of numerology believe that everything has vibrations, and different numbers have different vibrations. A person's name and birthday gives a specific vibration when converted into numbers, which supposedly dictates our destiny.
My question is, how do you measure the vibration of numbers or a person's name? I don't get it. But
Why are you trying to be logical?
so is that like a life path number?
Yes. Have you heard of life path numbers?
I have.
Well, in Pythagorean numerology, your life path number is based on your birthday. You add the numbers of your birth date together until you reduce it down to a single digit number, which is your life path number. Sounds confusing because, well, math.
Yeah.
But let me walk you through a simple example.
I've actually done my life path number on the zone before.
Did you?
I did.
And what was your life path number?
I think it was 7.
It is 7 because I did it for you too.
In fact, I think I told a little bit about how to do it, but I thought, oh my God, this is going to be too long. Are you going to actually explain this to people?
Just the very most simple, basic.
Okay.
Yes. I'm not going to get into master numbers, and I'm not going to get into translating your name into numbers because, this is a short segment.
Okay.
It's short like me.
All right.
So, for instance, in order to calculate John Stewart's life path number, you need to know he was born November 28th, 1961. You would then reduce the day, month, and year down to single digits. So you start by adding 2 plus 8 for the day, which equals...
Oh God, that's math in my head without a calculator.
Right?
10.
And then for 10, to get that to a single digit, you add the 1 and the 0, which is...
I believe it's 1.
You are so good at this. You should be a math teacher. So then you would add 1 plus 1, because November is the 11th month, and that gets...
Good old 2.
Then you would add 1 plus 9 plus 6 plus 1 for his year, which...
Oh, right, 1961.
Which adds up to 17,
Yep.
if my math is correct.
I hope so. Right now you're confuzzling me, and I don't have a calculator.
So we'll assume I'm right, and it's
Yeah.
17.
I think you're right. No, you're right.
And so you would reduce that down further by adding the 1 plus the 7 and 17 to get 8. Mm-hmm. So finally, you add the subtotals together. So that's 1 plus 2 plus 8, which equals 11.
But we're still not there because we still have 2 digits.
We still have 2 digits.
Yep.
So then you have to reduce that. 1 plus 1 equals 2. Here's a life path number of 2. Phew. Yeah. Easy.
Easy and straightforward, but why?
But why? Well, because then once you have the single-digit life path number, it can supposedly tell you the traits that you are born with, your values, and your destiny. Ooh. For Chaldean numerology, you need a whole chart, and it's much more complex. And instead of life path numbers, they're called destiny numbers. You have multiple numbers as well. You have one for your highest self, one for your human self, and on and on and on. I'm not going to get into all that. But using the John Stewart example, we'll see what life path number 2 means and if it fits for him or any of our listeners who may also have a life path number of 2.
Can I make a prediction?
You can.
I'm going to guess that there's going to be a lot of Barnum statements that are going to be happening. We'll see.
Why are you skipping ahead, Adrienne? If you have a life path number of 2, it says, quote, from romantic and business partnerships to family and friendships, these bonds are the most valuable thing in the life to a person with a life path 2.
Barnum.
They thrive in being a part of a team and will do everything in their power to make it a happy, easy, and successful union.
Ooh, more Barnum.
They're incredibly giving and do well at creating long-lasting connections with others. Barnum. Every action and decision of a person with a life path number 2 is geared at creating a harmonious existence. From the professional path they choose to who they surround themselves with to their spiritual pursuits, it's all driven by a desire for peace. To this end, however, 2 people can be so passive that they miss out on their full potential, like the famous John Stewart.
But he could be president, so he's missed out on his full potential.
I suppose he has.
There you go.
We should tell him.
We can make it fit.
Right. Whether this means staying silent about things that upset them or not asking for a raise or promotion to avoid rocking the boat, people with this life path can suffer from never putting their needs first.
Well, Considering Jon Stewart is a comedian known for his biting political commentary, I kind of doubt he avoids rocking the boat. But all the first stuff was accurate, so we can ignore that.
Right?
Yeah.
So my life path number is 3, and it says about me: charming, romantic, and full of creative energy. People who were born with a 3 life path number know how to embrace life. They tend to see the world through rose-colored lenses where everything looks like an opportunity and the chances for expression and enjoyment are endless. They have a tendency to be skilled communicators and have a knack for coming up with and sharing brilliant ideas. The life path 3 makes an excellent journalist, blogger, and social media influencer or author.
Wow, are they right with that?
Right? Clearly, this is scientific and factual, so numerology must be legit. I will just conveniently not read the bits that don't apply to me, like being an extrovert with a fabulous social life.
Exactly. Again, that's that confirmation bias as well as the Barnum statements. And of course, my life path number, as we mentioned before, is 7. And quote, people born with a life path 7 are eternal students of the universe. That's deep. They are introspective individuals with an unquenchable thirst for knowledge, and they enjoy looking into the inner workings of things. Someone with the life path is a true thinker, thank you very much, who lets their mind lead the way. Oh my God, my mind.
It's why you're such a good teacher.
Well, but my mind is so scattered. I think it's... Okay, pretty much from the moment of birth, they are able to skillfully combine the exacting side of their brain with their divine intuitive side to learn about, process, and make sense of life itself. Professionals that require research and problem-solving skills are a perfect fit for those with a life path 7. If given a quiet space to think and work, they'll dive deeper than anyone into a problem and come out with the most valuable and viable solution. Their analytical powers are off the charts, and these skills make them an asset to any project or team, end quote. Oh my. Of course, I'm going to accept that. That's very complimentary, the whole thing. So why would I reject any of it, even if it's false? These sound as specific as horoscopes and other Barnum statements, as we talked about. Has anyone ever tested or tried to prove the validity of numerology, Kat?
Well, funny you should ask, because in 2017, a study titled A Test of Numerology, Do Birth Numbers Predict Nobel Prize Winners?
Oh my.
By Jeremy Genovese, I hope I said that right.
Sounds right.
At Cleveland State University, calculated the numbers for more than 800 Nobel Prize winners. Quote, given the rarity of their accomplishments, numerology should be able to distinguish Nobel laureates from the rest of the population. Operationally, if numerology is true, then the distribution of birth numbers for Nobel Prize winners should significantly diverge from chance. In addition, we would expect different prize categories: chemistry, economics, literature, medicine, peace, and physics, to call upon different abilities. Thus, we would expect to find differences in the birth number distribution across prize categories, end quote.
So that sounds really interesting. What did the results show?
As you may have guessed, it added up to a whole lot of nothing. Quote, the distribution of birth numbers for all Nobel Prize winners does not deviate significantly from chance. This suggests that Nobel Prize winners as a group have no special pattern of birth numbers, end quote. To date, I have not found any scientific evidence to support the hypothesis that numbers have vibrations or that they can predict anything about a person or the future.
So this has been informative and, of course, fun as usual, Kat. Having a great time, and thanks for doing this. Turns out, once again, that using numbers and sciencey sounding words doesn't make something scientific. I know. But it can sound convincing, and if you don't take the time to question it and think about it logically, you're going to get kind of sucked in, I think.
right?
Because it sounds fun. It feels good.
Then the confirmation bias is
Yep.
there, right?
Exactly.
You were born into this destiny of being this fabulous thinker and
Yep.
fabulous person.
Who doesn't want to hear that?
Right?
Yeah. We all like to think of ourselves in those terms. At least I think I do. Maybe, I don't know. I better do a study on that.
Let's recalculate your life path number.
I'm glad I remembered it.
I am too. And I'm so glad that we're not divided on this topic.
There was a wink there for the listeners. There we go.
Oh, they felt the vibrations of that wink.
There we go.
Yeah. Even as a teenager, I wondered how your name could be converted into numbers that ruled your destiny. It sounded odd then, and it still sounds about as predictable as a horoscope.
Yes, indeed. And that seems to have summed things up. So signing off from Kitty Corner Studios, it's
Kate and
Allie, the Loons from Canada.
Time once again to go back to the archives at Trove, where we always go back to, because they're very good. This is Trove at trove, trove.nla.gov.au, the Trove of Treasure, which is information from the past, as reproduced in thousands upon thousands of scanned pages from newspapers, magazines, gazettes, weeklies, periodicals, journals, who knows what else. It's amazing. It really is quite an effort by the people who put this all together, and we raid this trove regularly to find out what people in the past were thinking, or writing at least, about various issues of concerns to skeptical investigations. And this week I was putting in a few random words like psychic, like crime, ghosts, just to see what was around, and I ended up in the year 1939 on the 2nd of December. It's almost like having a little time machine where you just set the dials and see where you go. And the newspaper in question, here in front of me, reproduced, is the Herald from Melbourne, Victoria. And this was a newspaper in publication from apparently from 1861 to 1954, and it has a rather startling headline, Do Ghosts Really Walk? Some Psychic Adventures, reviewed by Touchstone. No one knows more about the ways of ghosts and other terrifying apparitions than does Mr. Harry Price, Secretary of the University of London Council for Psychical Investigation. In 50 years of psychical research, London, Longmans, Green & Co., Mr. Price summarizes the results of his investigations. His book will surprise both his critics, who are bitter and numerous, and his friends. Spiritualism, belief that the spirits of the dead can communicate with the living, is as old as humanity itself. Every race, however primitive, has its stories and legends of spirits who delight to plague the living. Why such departed spirits are usually malevolent is a matter for conjecture. The cynic might suggest that only a cross-grained spirit would want to linger in this vale of tears. Still, there is no doubt that ghosts and apparitions and their dubious manifestations have played, assisted by mediums and soothsayers, an important part in human history. It is only since the turn of the century, however, that the spiritualistic mediums, who are the self-appointed interpreters between this world and the next, have been subjected to scientific investigation, and the results have been deplorable. There has not been one world-famous medium who has not, at one time or another, been convicted of fraud or trickery. or who has refused to conduct a séance under strictly controlled conditions. This would seem a sufficient indictment of the whole tribe and the claims its members make. But the matter is not as simple as that. There is no more confirmed doubting Thomas and skeptic than Mr. Price. Yet Mr. Price would agree with Hamlet that, quote, "There are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in our philosophy," end quote. And this doubt is not to be lightly dismissed. In these pages, Mr. Price takes us with him on tours of haunted houses, from one of which he arranged a broadcast for the BBC, although the ghost unfortunately did not materialize. He has had practical experience of poltergeists, those disembodied spirits who delight in disarranging the furniture and heaving articles about a room. He has investigated firewalkers, telepathists, and trance mediums. He has come in close contact with the seamy side of spiritualism, in which the chief asset of a conjuring ability, which would not shame Dante, and he knows how to fake spirit photographs with the best. But he cheerfully admits that there are some things which cannot be explained in the present state of human knowledge. At the same time, he is curious. He remarks, "I have endeavoured to avoid using the word supernatural. If a phenomenon occurs in nature, it must be natural, even although we are ignorant of the laws which govern it." A case in point is the mystery once surrounding firewalking, a stunt whose antiquity reaches back to classical times and is still a source of wonder to tourists in the Far East and the Pacific. In 1934, Mr. Price and his colleagues set out to solve the mystery in a London suburb. They prepared a bed of coals which registered on the surface 575 degrees centigrade. Water boils at 100 degrees centigrade. Their first experiments were carried out with two professional fire walkers, Kuda Bucks and Ahmed Hussein. Both men walked barefoot over the fire twice, each time in 4 strides, each foot being in contact with the embers twice. Each was unharmed. In each instance, the feet were examined for any prepared chemical treatment and for any unusual features. No abnormalities were found, although Ahmed Hussein recited a prayer from the Quran before he stepped onto the burning coals. Still unconvinced that supernatural aid explained, Mr. Price persuaded 5 young Englishmen to attempt the ordeal. The results demonstrate the chief asset is a conjuring one, and I think that should say cunning one, to take 4 quick strides across burning coals without suffering ill effects. In fact, a young Englishman, Reginald Adcock, who weighs 11.5 stone, and 11.5 stone is roughly 73 kilos, or about 161 pounds, proved himself a better firewalker than either Kuda Bucks or Ahmed. The experiment proved that, quote, "any person with the requisite determination, confidence, and steadiness can walk over a fire as hot as 800 degrees centigrade, or especially introduce mental state as necessary in a firewalker," end quote. All that has been written about it in the past is so much showmanship and ballyhoo. After a brilliant and provocative study of the claims of famous mediums, past and present, Mr. Price sets out his conclusions in an interesting chapter entitled "I Believe," while emphasizing the fact that, quote, "there are very few phenomena studied by psychical researchers that have been demonstrated scientifically," end quote. He says he has witnessed phenomena under controlled conditions for which he cannot offer adequate explanation. It does not really matter that many of the phenomena are of a more or less trivial nature. What does matter is that they occur in apparent defiance of natural laws. And Mr. Price believes in ghosts. For 12 months he lived in a haunted house, Borley Rectory, near Sudbury in Suffolk. His experiences there, and they must have been extraordinary to impress him, will form the subject of his next book. In any event, he has given us enough to convince even the most skeptical that psychical research is not a subject to be lightly dismissed. And yes, we see 1939. So we're looking in the order of 85 years ago. Well, hopefully they can turn up some interesting research soon. And to wrap up, we have a report from 1928, the year James Randi was born, on the 5th of July, as reported here in the Kalgoorlie Miner from Western Australia. A German clairvoyant. Charge of fraud dismissed. Frau Gunther Gethers, the clairvoyant, who made a remarkable demonstration of her powers of second sight in court during her trial at Innsbruck, Germany, was acquitted on May 13 amid the congratulations of the spectators. The public prosecutor wished to withdraw the case, but her counsel refused on the ground that she required a judgment rehabilitating her character. For the second time, the state had been condemned in costs in its attempt to prove fraud against her. 5 experts will affirm the presence of special powers, which they refrained from describing as clairvoyance. One of them, Dr. Thomas, gave the defendant credit for, quote, remarkable psychic powers, end quote, founded upon autosuggestion. These powers, if used with due caution in detection of crime, might produce results as valuable as those of the best police dogs. Dr. Thomas recommended the foundation of a state institute for criminal telepathy. Well, there we go. Just a few interesting stories here and there from the Trove Archives involving psychics and psychic claims and that sort of thing. But you too can look up that sort of thing, or those sort of things, or lots of different things when you visit Trove at trove.nla.gov.au or your local library, for instance, because when you go there, you never know what you might find. Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Next week's show will be coming to you, I hope, from CSICon in sunny Las Vegas. Let's see who we can interview and what insights we can bring you. Thank you to those people who continue to support the Skeptic Zone at skepticzone.tv via Patreon or PayPal. It's needless to say, it's vital to the show that people like you chip in $5, $10 a month or a week or whatever you feel is appropriate. And sometimes people are very generous and are regular contributors with even more than that. And every cent is valuable and every cent is used towards the Skeptic Zone, be that in certain travel costs or microphone costs or simply running the podcast in general. But for this week, this is Richard Saunders signing off from sunny Berkeley, California.
You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Please visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for episodes and show notes with links going back to 2008. You can follow the Skeptic Zone on Facebook, X, TikTok and YouTube by clicking the links at our homepage, together with links to support the show financially via Patreon or PayPal. The Skeptic Zone is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed by our guests are not necessarily those of the Skeptic Zone podcast or any other skeptical organisation.
Hello, everybody. We're back in Rodney Studios, and I have...
Cat McLeod.
And Rodney Schmaltz.
And we're here to play the dice game.
With Dr. Rod. Yay!
Yeah! We were going to do this with the class, but we ran out of time because I talked too much.
No. It was fascinating.
It was great. It was great.
Okay, so Rodney is going to go first. So what do you think you will roll?
I think I will roll a 7.
And it was a D10, right?
That's right.
D10, so a 7. I'm going to say 10.
I'm going to say it too.
All right, go ahead. Roll the die.
Oh, I got an 8.
Between yours and mine.
I'm just left out in the cold.
Yeah. You didn't join the party.
No, clearly not.
All right, my turn. Mine is a D6 or a cube. And I'm going to roll my cube.
Guess first.
Oh, yeah. I always get that wrong.
Your guess?
I'll take a 6.
I'm going to take a 6.
Ooh, well, I'm going to take a 5 for Susan Gerbeck.
Yes. Susan Gerbeck always guesses 5.
Oh, okay.
And once Richard rolled 3 5s in a row.
Wow.
Yeah. It took years. And she still doesn't believe it. All right, here we go.
Oh.
A 4. Nobody's very psychic today.
No, we're sucking at this.
Yeah, okay.
All right, well, I have got a D8, what was the correct name for this again?
I believe it's an octahedron, isn't it?
I believe it is an octahedron. What do you think I'm going to roll?
A 2.
A 6.
A 1. Does this have a 1? Like,
it better.
1. Wait, what? Does it have a 1? Yes, a 1. Look, it's been a long day. Quiet you. Well, that wasn't nowsy at all. There we go.
Oh, a 2.
I got it.
Got it.
I got it.
Rodney is the most psychic.
The vibrations were right today.
Right?
It just felt right. Yeah. And there was a lot of good energy. On the first 2, the energy wasn't great, but the third one, the energy, I could feel it change a bit. Yeah. So I'm feeling pretty good about that.
Would you like to use my magical die for the supplementary?
Yes, I would. That would be great.
So now for the supplementary, we're back to a D8.
I'll go with 3.
3.
6.
4.
Here we go. Another 3.
Woo!
Rodney, the energy.
It's the auras that I could feel. There's a lot that's just feeling right now. So when I was manifesting, I had to really concentrate, and it just came through for me. So I'm feeling pretty good.
Clearly, it's a magic die.
Yeah.
His access bars are working really well right now.
Yes.
We ran the bars just before we started the die game.
The winning numbers this week are 8, 4, 2, and 3.
Well, that was fun. Thanks again for joining us.
All right. Thank you. The winning numbers this week are 8, 4, 2, and 3.